From Wall Street to Main Street, this is LALATE.
It's a huge night for June 19th, 2022 on Evenings Late, as the American public is waiting for recession. But by waiting for recession, may get blindsided by the downward spiral of this economy. The breaking news tonight is that a forced stimulus check is in every U.S. state. You got to get that forced stimulus check in every U.S. state because of the downward spiral of this economy is going to be very pronounced. And tonight, a lot of analysts are trying to set you up for a web of confusion by having you focus on whether we're in recession or not in recession. That's not part of the equation. There's a stock market crash underway. There's a housing market crash underway. And inflation's going higher by the minute by the concern. Employment is getting really bad. But Americans are getting a lot of talking comments from Janet Yellen today and other analysts as well that we should focus on only the word recession. Do not. If you only focus on the word recession and not focus on the gas prices going higher, you're not focusing on the storm out to sea, and you're not focusing on the downward spiral of this economy that is left and right. In this recording tonight, I'm going to go over three things for you. The storm out to sea, and the storm out to sea has three parts to it. Phase one right now, tonight, is the downward spiral of this economy between now and September. The economy will mirror the situation of the lockdown of 2020 in September of this year. Then we go into phase two. September 2020 this year will be the worst part of this economy since the lockdown of March 2020. Then in 2023, the recession will hit. To see how this is so important, what's important to understand is you do not focus on whether this is a recession or not a recession. You don't focus on whether we're going in recession or not going in recession. And you focus on getting financial independence for your family tonight. And it starts by getting that forced stimulus check in every U.S. state. Three things we're going to do in tonight's broadcast. We're going to go over those incredible checks. We're going to get them by becoming a member, going right on this video, and signing up for the incredible newsletter that everyone's talking about. Subscribe to this channel. We can go over where this economy is and where it's going and how you have a 90-day leeway, a 90-day advance notice before the downward spiral of this economy hits dramatically. It's in September. You start it tonight with America's most watched show for financial news in prime time. It's Evenings LALATE, and the breaking news starts right now. It's a beautiful night here along the coast for June 19th, 2022, and hope you're having a beautiful day. The word on the screen is the key word tonight, recession. Americans are now a little too focused on the word, and that focus is being caused by the White House and really bad reporters. I'll go over the breaking news with this front, starting right now. There is a downward spiral of this economy. The economy is going to get really bad between now and September, but the focus too much on a word is going to trip you up. And that word is this one, recession. What's going on? Wall Street analysts, Wall Street reporters, and even Wall Street executives, and of course broadcast media, are tripping up the American public with basically a naming game. Are we going to recession? Are we not? Is this a recession? Is it not? And if the answer is a no, then Americans think, oh, we're all really good then. No, you're not. Let me explain the situation. There's a downward spiral in this economy between now and September. That's not a recession. Then in September to January, it's going to be horrifically bad. That's not a recession. The recession starts next year. Why do I know this? Because I was the first person in the American financial broadcasting industry to report a recession is coming, but I never said it was going to come this year. It's coming in 2023. But here is where it's getting really bad, the breadth of coverage, and this is going to impact the consumer really badly tonight as well. Janet Yellen was appearing in broadcast media this morning, asked a series of questions, and again, you're going to understand how these questions are lining up. Are we in a recession? No, we're not in a recession. Or is a recession inevitable? I'll give you my answer. It's a recession. Inevitable, not. And what would happen in a recession? Question after question was only about one situation, recession. Here's the problem. This downward spiral in this economy between now and September is going to cause a lot of people to lose their homes, their cars, and their businesses. It's not a recession. And what happens in September is going to be 1,000% worse. That's not a recession either. And so if you keep on asking, is it a recession? How is this recession? This is not the recession. And anyone who knows who's getting that question, how to answer it, says, no, it's not a recession. And the viewer may think everything is fine. It's not fine. Let me go with the breaking news tonight, starting right now. This economy is going through three phases, and the first phase started in February this year. It's a downward spiral of this economy where things get weaker economically, financially, labor-wise, left and right, until we go into phase two, and that starts September. September will mirror the lockdown of 2020. The great news that you're watching this channel, that you're a viewer of this channel, that you're a member of this channel, is that you have a pre-warning. When March 2020's lockdown came, people said, hey, you're going to lockdown. What's a lockdown? I've never heard of that word before. A lockdown? What do I have to do? You're not going to make any money. You're not going to be open your business. You're not going to be able to go to work. Excuse me, how do I pay my bills? Tough luck. Cope with it. That's what happened in March of 2020. This time around, it's different. The difference is you're watching tonight's Evenings LALATE broadcast. You're watching this channel. Since February, this channel, I've been saying, get ready, because the September hit is going to be horrific. So tonight for June 19th, you are an advantage. You have a 3-month pre-warning to prepare your family financially for the onset of a very bad economic time in September. And yes, again, that September is not a recession. It's just a worse situation. Now, tonight I'm going to go over what you need to do to prepare your family, both financially, both economically, both labor-wise. And we're going to go over all the details of it. And we're going to start with labor, because I believe labor is one of the most important parts of what you have to prepare for. Janet Yellen, in fact, addressed labor today. And again, Janet Yellen's nonsense was very much apparent. Janet Yellen says it's a great labor market, best labor market since the Cold War, best labor market since the end of World War II. Labor's great, labor is great, labor's wonderful. How much nonsense can a person say? All untrue. This labor market's not good. It's not good. How do you know it's not good? First, you see it. Second, you hear it. And third, the corporations tell you. Finally, you get laid off. Then you realize Janet Yellen has no idea what she's talking about. And tonight we're going to go over a lot of nonsense, and I'll isolate where the nonsense is, and I'll go over whether the American people believe it's nonsense yet or not. Do Americans believe the labor market is the best it's ever been right tonight for June 19th? I don't believe they do. I don't believe they do. Labor security or comfort with your job is at the lowest levels we've seen in several months. Employees are now worrisome they're going to get laid off, but they're not as bad as they were when the pandemic first hit. So there is a bigger fall to still happen. When Walmart reported corporate earnings about a month ago, they said the key words: too many employees on the floor of the stores. That's the type of language that tees you off that there's a labor problem brewing. There's 3 types of labor problems to brew. First is layoffs, then are hiring freezes, and then are store closures. We're really at the first part of the labor fall, and that is where employers lay people off. We saw it with the viewers in the live chat where I said, you see less employees in the stores working, less or more, right? If you're in the live chat right now, let's do it again. Less or more employees in the store, right in the live chat. Viewers over a month ago said less of stores employees across the board. But we didn't hear the corporate announcement of the layoffs until weeks later. And it came on Memorial Day weekend when Tesla announced it, 10% of its labor workforce gone. Then Coinbase announcing 82% of their labor workforce gone this last week. And then came those key words. Coinbase and Tesla both said hiring freeze. And they also said that they're worried about recession. What is a hiring freeze? If you never went through a hiring freeze, let me tell you what it is. It's really bad, and it appears in a recession. It's when the employer says, do not knock on our door for a job. We're not accepting any applications for new job applicants this year. That is horrible. And the last step of the equation is store closures. Store closures where the big box retailers say, we're closing 30 stores in 20 states. That hasn't happened. That's the third progression across the board. What you must do tonight for you and your family, if anyone in your family is an employee, or any of your loved ones or employees, this is what you need to tell them to do right away. First, you need to give them that wake-up call. If they don't know it, if they're not a viewer of this channel, tell them to watch this channel. And you also tell them the following things. First, there is no unemployment stimulus anymore in this economy. It does not exist, and I believe that the average American believes that if they are laid off tomorrow, they can just default back to some beautiful unemployment stimulus they saw in 2020. It doesn't exist. FPUC does not exist. That $600 a week that goes on top of your existing benefits, gone. PUC, extra weeks of unemployment benefits, it doesn't exist, gone. PUA, if you're 1099 and laid off tomorrow, gone, it doesn't exist. So this would be a rude awakening if someone gets laid off tomorrow and thinks that these items exist. They don't. Also not existing is LWA. This is what I want you to do right tonight. If you're an employee or a 1099, I want you to do this right away. I want you to find another business in your town that you could potentially go to work at a blink of an eye, that you believe is financially is stable, that is going to be around within the next 6 months to a year, and that if you're laid off today at your job, you can go to that job and get hired right away. I want you to watch them while you keep your job and make sure that they are stable, because that is where you want to go immediately when you're laid off. You don't want to think about unemployment stimulus because it doesn't exist. And when you go there, I don't want you to demand a salary raise or a bonus or a hiring raise at all. I want you to take that job right across the board. Now, if you're a small business owner, I also want you to cut back on your costs. I'll go over that in a second. But let me go to my seniors. Seniors are detailing a new report released this weekend. And what they're doing is not good. It's not good. It's exactly the opposite of what they're doing. Not my viewers. These are people polled in a new report. It says, in view of the downward spiral in this economy, seniors are doing two things. They're increasing credit card debt and they're dipping into their savings. Ouch. Both of those things are really bad. You, whether you're a senior on SSI or SSDI, do none of those things. And if you're any viewer of this channel, you do not have any more flexible base interest items at home. Get rid of them. If you have a car loan, switch it from flexible to fixed or pay it off. If you have credit card debt, pay it off. Why? Because J-POW is going to hit you really badly, and it's going to hurt really bad, and you're not going to be able to afford it between now and October. My predictions of what J-POW and the Federal Reserve are going to do between now and October are the following. He had done a three-quarter basis point increase at the June FOMC meeting earlier this last week. I predict he's going to do the same thing in July. August, they're off. Then half in September, half in October, and then a quarter thereafter. Ouch, ouch, ouch. That's really severe. So you need to get rid of all that flexible interest rate-based instruments at home right tonight. Next, if you have cash, hoard the cash. Get these stimulus checks I'm going to go over with you later in this video, and continue to get checks. I don't care if you're Margaret, Nisi, Lorraine, Johnny, or Mark. Watch those examples later in these videos because I show you how they keep on getting checks. You need to keep on getting checks. Cash is king. Happening also tonight, featured on Afternoons LATE, brand new show at 3 o'clock, about 2 hours earlier before this broadcast, was the breaking news on a major catastrophe happening today. The crypto industry is being evaporated. It's not a dip. It's not a crash. It's an evaporation. Cryptocurrency was led by Bitcoin and Ethereum throughout much of 2022 and 2021. Their rant started late in 2021, came into a big head at the highest point at November of 2021. And tonight, Bitcoin has fallen from 64,000 in November of last year to now $17,000 a coin. The fall could go even lower. Many analysts believing they could fall to 10,000 even lower. Let's go over to Ethereum, which at one point was $4,000 a coin, is now hundreds of dollars as a coin. It's an evaporation we've never seen across the board. Now, I'm going to use millennials as an example of what you do in these next 90 days because they're getting it really right. A new report says millennials are not purchasing big ticket items like homes or cars anymore this month and last month because they could not afford the interest rate of the loan. That's the correct approach. Finally, if you have stocks, if you have bonds, if you have crypto, if you have real estate, and you see the devaluation of the asset dramatically in the last 30 days, understand this. It's going to go worse. It's going to go worse. In a stock market, bear market, you go down 26%. We're already there. But in a stock market with a bear market and a recession, you go down 48%. That will take 2 years to achieve. The bottom of the stock market is not this year. It's next year or the year after. That will be 48% across the board. Yeah, your stocks are going down a lot more than they are right now. Real estate It has not started the pure implosion it's going to have. More about that second. That will take a major hit. So if you have assets and you're worried about the devaluation of your assets tonight, what should you do? Ultimately, if you don't need the cash of that asset anytime in the next 2-3 years, close your eyes, because the asset's going to devalue and will not come back to its current valuations to potentially 2024. Now, Janet Yellen and Kevin O'Leary have something in common tonight. What do they have in common? They're both talking nonsense. And what are they talking about? That everything is so wonderful in this economy, that everything is so punky-dory. And Kevin O'Leary says, I don't like talking heads. Well, tonight he's my talking head because he is really out to left field. He basically says everything is wonderful because we're not in a recession. Again, I got it. We're not in a recession. That doesn't mean the economy is good. Let me give you their comments right now. Kevin O'Leary says, there's no evidence of an impending slowdown or recession yet. That's nonsense. There is every evidence that we're already in a slowdown. GDP growth has shrunk dramatically. Consumer confidence has shrunk. Consumer spending has shrunk. Housing is down 17% year to date. Auto sales are down 18% year to date. And travel and leisure, the cruise industry went implosion last Friday. There's no evidence of a slowdown? Of course there's evidence of slowdown. No evidence of recession yet. That's a correct quote, because of course we're not in a recession right now. I'm not saying we're not going to get one, but everyone's saying it's right around the corner. Next week, it's just wrong. He's right. There is no recession tomorrow. Now, what I'm worried about is the average American consumer in a new poll last week said that they believe they're in a recession right now. You know why I'm worried about that? One, it's worse consumer confidence than it should be. Second, they think this is the bottom. This is just the start. We're just in phase one. Now, Janet Yellen, she was a little bit more ridiculous in her comments today. She says, I expect the economy to slow. Janet, it already has slowed. I mean, you're expecting something that's already happened. She continues in her ABC This Week interview by saying, it's been a growing at a very rapid rate as economy as the labor market has recovered, and we have reached full employment. Nonsense. That's a nonsense quote from your Secretary of Treasury. There are 230,000 new jobless claims last Thursday. That was the worst number we've seen since the start of the pandemic. When the start of the pandemic hit, we were 200,000. We're growing on unemployment new claims per week from 184, which is where we should be, to 200 to 234,000 new jobless claims. New jobless claims per week. She says we're full employment. We're not. We have 1.4 million continuing unemployment claims per week. That's a horrible number. Then she says, clearly inflation is unacceptably high. That's correct. And then here comes her comments. She says that the the labor market is the best that we have seen in the post-war period. Nonsense. It's not. It's not. And that type of nonsense is not going to hurt the investor. It's going to hurt the employee, because the employee is being told, you have job security, demand a salary and raise. Don't worry if you're laid off. We got a job for you next door. None of that is true. And this is where people are going to get hurt dramatically. Let me go into the other part of the equation, which I want you to understand tonight. Whether you're a small business owner or consumer, whether you're buying the goods or you're making the goods, and that is the following four industries are all doing it wrong: housing, auto, transportation, hospitality and leisure, and finally, finally, travel. What are they all doing? They're looking at the situation for June 19th, 2022, and they understand the labor costs are going up, and they understand the material costs have gone up. So they're greedy. And in that greed, they want to have the same profit levels they had earlier this year, maybe last year. And to get that same profit level, guess what they're doing? They're raising the price of the item they're selling to you so that their greed can be fulfilled with a higher profit, with the same profit level they had last year. And guess what's happening? They're imploding. One industry after another is imploding left and right. Auto sales are down 24% year to date because the auto dealers are taking a car that they would normally get a $2,000 profit level last year and trying to get $5,000 profit level. Elon Musk last week announced that Tesla's increasing the price of their cars by $6,000. $6,000 more than they were the week before. And guess what? No one's buying. Auto sales are dramatically down because no one's going to buy an overpriced car. And number two, they can't afford it. You go into the dealership and suddenly your car loan for that Tesla is a lot more money because Jay Powell keeps on raising interest rates. What is travel and leisure doing? Travel and leisure is the airlines, and the airlines are taking big drops. So are The cruise industries. Did you see the cruise stocks last week? All plummeting. What are they doing? They're understanding that the fuel to run the ship or to fly the plane is going through the roof. So, in their greed to pursue the same corporate profits that they had early this year when gasoline was cheap, they're jacking up the price of their items. The cruises are more expensive. The airline tickets are more expensive. Is the buyer buying? Now, this is where it gets interesting. No, they are not. They were initially, because they came off a lockdown. They had that COVID lockdown syndrome. They wanted to go celebrate and get around and travel around the world. They took that one trip, and now the bookings are down month after month, month to month. 30% both airlines and also the cruises. Now, even today, for June 19, 2022, there were broadcast news stories that dramatically were wrong, that said travel's way up, that everyone is spending the money on the tickets. They don't care about it. That's the data from Memorial Day weekend. Since then, the consumer is not doing that. There's a storm out to sea, and that storm out to sea is impacting so many parts of the economy, and it impacting so many parts of the economy that people are not pivoting, and what's not pivoting is their bottom line. The worst one of the offenders is the greed of the housing. The greed of the housing builders and the greed of the homeowners. What is that greed doing? Their material costs have gone up. Their labor subcontractor costs have gone up. And guess what? The person who bought the house in 2020 during the pandemic, who's trying to flip the house and trying to make a nice profit, now understands their material costs have gone up. The home builder who's been building the house the last year understands their material costs have gone up. So here comes that greed again, in the pursuit of that greed to desire the exact same profit they would have had on that house back in 2019. They're jacking up the price. And guess what's happening? Housing was down 17% year to date before the mortgage rates took a hit. And now the housing industry is going to go bust. Consumers are not shopping for homes that are overpriced because the sellers want to get their same greedy profit level. And consumers cannot buy the homes because the mortgage rates that were just 3% in the month of February are tonight 5.5%. See the narrative? And finally, restaurant and hospitality. Restaurant hospitality, which is bars and similar. They have raised their prices on their goods, thinking you're going to buy that meal that's now $3 more an entree than it was before. You're not going to do that indefinitely. You're going to say, what's going on here? And what's going on here is that these consumers are walking away. In the next 90 days, this is what's going to happen. Price of goods are going to go up. Recessionary winds are going to kick in, and mortgage rates are going to continue to grow. Also, in the next 90 days, consumer confidence will continue to fall. Consumer spending is falling, and consumer income is dropping dramatically. This is where Kevin Leary was not on point on. Do not depend on the next 90 days for gasoline to go lower or inflation to go lower, and do not expect fast action from Congress. Tonight, and starting earlier today, I included a new part to this video. And a new part to this video is to explain consumer sentiments and consumer thought processes. And while it's very hard to gauge what the consumers that are not viewers of this channel are thinking, this is my analysis on them tonight. I believe that the average consumer thinks that a lot of the unemployment stimulus of 2020 is still around. And I believe that they think that if we go into recession, or something that mirrors a recession, that the federal government is going to give them a bailout. I believe that the average consumer is ready for their handout and thinks that the federal government is going to take care of them if this economy gets worse. And I gotta tell you, that's a dangerous approach to your money. And I don't want you to do that at all. Later in this video, we're going to go over the third part of this video, which is getting checks. And it all involves the following situation. Step 1, subscribing. Step 2, become a member. And step 3, getting those 4 stimulus checks in every U.S. state. It started back in March, and it's important for me to explain the significance of March for this money. Viewers in March said, LA, you taught me really well. You always said get stimulus when the situation is good, when the economy is good, when money is flowing good. Don't wait till my back is against the wall. And back in March, I looked for checks. Now, these checks have been around since March. It's June. You got a 3-month pre-warning. 3-month pre-warning to phase 2 of this economy hits in September. again, phase two, will look like the pandemic lockdown of March 2020, when you had no time to prepare your family financially, and you had to rush and start to find money dramatically and quickly. This time around, there won't be that money around from the federal government. And this time around, the difference is you have a lead in. You have a pre-warning, a 90-day pre-warning, and I have checks for you, much more checks than we actually had in March of 2020. That is why you get these 4 stimulus checks in every U.S. state. You get them in the second half of this video. Tonight, I also want to go over another part of the situation, which is very important to understand, especially in view of what's happening later in this video. When we talk about the importance of 4 stimulus check in every U.S. state, it's also important to understand why gasoline is the root of all problems tonight. And until gasoline's situation is solved, everything will be much worse. Breaking news tonight is that analysts now believe that the war in Ukraine and Russia may not go weeks, not go months, but potentially go years. If it goes years, then guess what you're going to see at the pump. If the Western allies do not get a situation of gasoline solved, and I'll go over that solution in 1 second, you could be seeing this price of gasoline at the pump, not just this year, but for many years to come. And potentially, how much higher? A lot higher. As high as $10 a gallon at the pump could be the reality, the new reality for this economy and world economies. And everyone's livelihood will be dramatically flipped on end. Let me tell you what's going on tonight. When Vladimir Putin put 100,000 Russian troops at the Ukrainian border in October of last year, right before Halloween, I said, what are they doing there? They don't belong there. I said, if those Russian troops are going to invade Ukraine next year in 2022, that's going to be the biggest economic story of the year. And I hope we have the oil lined up. I was not the only one who said that as well. Joe Biden said that to Janet Yellen. She confirmed that the president reached out to Treasury in October, saying get ready for contingency plans for oil if Putin invades Ukraine next year. Well, did they have the plans lined up? No. Now let's understand how oil works. Oil works very simplistically. A high schooler can understand this. When you have less oil, the price of oil goes up. Until you replace the missing oil, the price stays high. Pretty simple, right? So when Putin invaded Ukraine in March, the Western allies, which includes the United States, banned Russian oil. We're banning Russian oil. There's less oil. So then the price of gasoline is going to go higher. Yes. How do we get the price of gasoline down? You get oil. Pretty simple, isn't it? It is simple. And that's what we had to do in March. The Western allies, including the United States. Did we do it, get it done? No. April? No. May? No. June? No. July? At the moment, it does not look like the Western allies have gotten the reality check. They need to get this oil, and they need to get it right away. Until they get the replaced oil, the situation is going to get worse. I'm predicting gasoline is going to $10 a gallon, but the Wall Street consensus is $185 a barrel, international Brent crude. That's certainly higher than it is right now. It's about $120 a barrel. Yesterday it was a little bit lower, like $118. This is trouble with a capital T. 3.5 million barrels of gasoline missing per day. And that missing gasoline needs to be coming from 5 places. The White House has pursued none of those 5 places. Why is this a troubling problem? I'll explain in the second half of this video, but I'm going to tell you the preview right now. If gasoline remains high, the consumer price index number, the CPI, remains high, and that's a gauge for inflation. If inflation is high, then Jay Powell is going to keep on raising interest rates to battle inflation, and we're going into recession. There you go. It all starts with the problem of gasoline prices. So how do we solve the problem of gasoline? I'll go over that in the second half of this video. I also have other great news for you. Well, that's not great news. I have other great news on top of those 4 stimulus checks in every U.S. state. And that great news in the second half is, yes, your benefits are going up. Your benefits are confirmed to going up, and I'll explain to you how they're going up. It's really interesting. And guess what? It goes right back to gasoline. Yes, if these gasoline prices remain high, your checks are going up even more than the Social Security actuary is predicting. I'll go over that more in the second half of this video. Plus, we'll be looking back at Joe Biden's comments yesterday on recession and how they mirror those from Janet Yellen today. It's a big night, and we're just getting started. From the shores of Santa Monica, California, during that commercial break, do yourself 3 things. 1, subscribe. 2, become a member. 3, get that incredible newsletter Monday through Friday. And 4, stay tuned for the second half. In the second half, we go over these incredible checks and what you need to know. It's a big night as America's most loved show for prime time on financial news continues. It's Evenings LALATE with big checks coming up in the second half. I'll see you back in 60 seconds as the June 19th, 2022 edition of Evenings LALATE continues.
If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on Mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE.
And the excitement continues right now for June 19th, 2022 from the shores of Santa Monica, California. Hope you're having a beautiful day. Stay with me all week long because we have a lot of breaking news happening this week on LA. You need to watch all the videos. We have a brand new show every day at 3 o'clock, afternoons, brand new evenings LA at 5 o'clock, mornings LA live on air at 9, and lots of shows throughout the day. Also, don't miss our LA live show that airs every night starting at about 5:45 Pacific Standard Time. Tonight, we know that the importance of getting a stimulus check in every U.S. state is there. We know that because the economy is getting worse. The problem is that you can't wait and you need to move really quickly. Let me go over these incredible 4 stimulus checks in every U.S. state starting right now, and I'm very excited for you. Why? Because you got a leadway. You're watching this channel. You've determined that you're going to become very informed about where this economy is. You're going to be very informed about where this economy is going. You're not going to miss any breaking news about the economy because there is a lot of breaking news by the hour. And then you're going to prepare yourself, your family, your household by getting as much stimulus you can today and continue to get it thereafter. It starts back to March 2020 when viewers of this channel said, "LA, can you give me some checks? Can you give me some checks?" And I got them, these checks. Check A, I call it. Check B, I call it. Check C, and more. 4 stimulus checks in every U.S. state, lots of them in every U.S. state, that came from executive action from the President of the United States and came from the states. My focuses was threefold. 1, I wanted to make sure that you have checks for all of you. Eligibility is so important on this channel, so I focus on eligibility. As Kat says, you do it really well. Single individual, $75,000 less, go get them. Married couple, $150,000 less, go get them. Rent, own, go get them. Young or old, without children, with children, go get them. On benefits, SSI or SSDI, go get them. Number 2, I was focused on really big checks for you. Let's not play nonsense games here. $200, $600, $500 checks, that ain't going to cut it. It's not going to fill up the car for gasoline more than 2 times. You need checks that can sustain your family or yourself into the month of September. Then potentially sustain you from September into the early part of that recession next year. That is why I got you big checks upwards of $80,000. And number 3, it's very important that you get checks today and you get checks thereafter. Did you become a member during the commercial break? You got a 3-month leadway before the financial storm of this economy hits in September. You can't wait 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days, or even 3 hours to get these checks. You need to get them right today because the financial storm is just a blink of an eye. And let's go over all these incredible checks, starting with the very first check. They are huge, and the very first check is $6,500 to $12,000. Wow. It is a wonderful four-stimulus check in every U.S. state. It's called the Homeowners Weatherizing Grant Check. Single individual, $75,000 less, go get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, go get it. If you are on benefits, go get it. How do you get it? You know the equation. Step 1, subscribe to this channel. Step 2, go down under the video where it says join this channel and become a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP. People in the live chat that are members who have an emoji behind their name with a hawk, they are members. Step 3, get that incredible newsletter Monday through Friday. Then go down that membership newsletter and look at where it says Check A. It's at the top of the newsletter. Where you see Check A, it'll explain a little bit more about Check A, and then it gives you the link to go in and apply, and that's how you do it. Send you to the nationwide website, then you choose your state, then you choose the Homeowners Weatherizing Grant, and you go get that wonderful $6,500 to $12,000 check. Check B is a $15,000 to $80,000 four-stimulus check in every U.S. state. You're going to go get that next, right away. Don't wait. Average view is tracking $66,000 to $80,000 on this one. It is a four-stimulus check in every U.S. state. It's called the Homeowners Grant. If you're on benefits, go get it. If you're $75,000 less, single individual, married couple, $150,000 less, go get it. How do you get that? Same way. Subscribe to this channel. Go under the channel, the video's description, and join the channel. Become a Purple Hawk, Purple Power Calcino VIP, and then go and click the link in the newsletter for Check B, and go in and apply on the nationwide website. Send you to your state. Pounce and get this incredible Check B. You're not done there yet. No, you're going to go get Check C as well. Check C is a wonderful check, $2,000 a month over 12 months. It averages out. It is a monthly stimulus check on average. And many viewers have gotten a lot more, upwards of $45,000. Some viewers have gotten $200,000. It's the leftover of third stimulus, but it predates even third stimulus. It was first called on this channel Purple, and then it became third stimulus, and now it is called Check C. Viewers of this channel have been getting these big sums of money. Let's start with the success stories for rent. It's for my renters and also homeowners. Rent, $30,000 for rent. Do you want $30,000? Go get Check C. Do you want $15,000 for utility, like Mark's brother-in-law? Go get Check C's. SNAP, Mark's brother-in-law's getting $25,000 a year over 10 years, $250,000 combos. Here we go. There's Nisi, Mark, as we spoke about earlier in this video. They got combinations of many different checks in Check C. Nisi's at $23,000. Now she's at $50,000 approximately. Mark was at $32,000. Now he's at $166,000. He, like all the rest of them, heard me well, where I say go back and keep on getting checks. He went from 30 to 50 to 100 to now 166 because he got Check B. Lorraine did the same thing. She heard and listened, and she went and did that. She went from 105 to 120 to then 130 or 140. And then we have Johnny, who helped get his two family members each $50,000 after he got himself $80,000, and then he helped friends and neighbors get over $300,000. These are all your available checks. How do you get that Check C? You go right down the membership newsletter to see Check C. It tells you where to call, what to say, and how to say it. And what's important is to do this right today. Go right in this video and join and become a member right today, because you are in a good situation. You have an advance warning. That storm out to sea is in September, and you can get these big checks now, and should get the checks big right now before the stimulus stampede kicks in. More about that in a second. Go right in this video, hit that subscribe button. There's a little bell. Make sure you hit that bell so all notifications are set to all on. And number third, go into the video where it says join this channel, click the link, become a member, and you're ready to get that incredible newsletter. Now, what's important to understand is that this is June. This is June. In September, the economy will look like day one of the March 2020 lockdown because of COVID. It's going to be that severe. Economies will change dramatically. Industries will change dramatically. And people who did not know that this was coming, people don't watch this channel, people are not up to date on the economic changes in the economy, will think that they're in February of this year, and suddenly they realize September looks nothing like February, and they're going to get blindsided. They're potentially going to get laid off. They're going to look for unemployment stimulus, doesn't exist. They're going to potentially lose their business. They're going to look for business stimulus, doesn't exist. And they're going to look for items, and their back is going to be against the wall. You're not going to do that. You're not going to let yourself be that way. So you're going to get checks right today and continue to get checks thereafter. Now, why is it so important to pile up on these checks right now? Get lots of checks, save these checks, and keep that cash, because you know what's happening in phase 3, the recession, in January of next year. No one knows what's going to happen with this Congress in a recession. You need to presume that they're not going to give you anything, because that's the only way I can give you the tough love to say, get the checks that are available right this moment. Get lots of these checks and pile them up and save them for that rainy day, which is the recession, which is phase 3 in January. Tonight we have a lot of nonsense, and I have not seen so much nonsense coming from different directions all at the same time. But it's not so much me calling it nonsense, it's the American people. When were the American people going to wake up and realize they're being told nonsense? Economic nonsense, financial nonsense, projection nonsense from not just the administration, not just Jay Powell, but also financial analysts. And tonight there's a lot of nonsense out there, and I want to go over the nonsense with you so you understand you're being fed nonsense. First, Janet Yellen saying the labor market is really strong. Nonsense. Labor market is not strong. Janet Yellen has 230,000 new jobless claims per week and 1 million plus continued unemployment claims. And businesses, corporate America, that are very, very successful companies, that are very financially stable, like Tesla, are announcing layoffs and hiring freezes. If you're announcing a hiring freeze, then that is not a stable labor market. That is an unstable labor market, meaning they have too many employees and they need to get rid of them. That's the antithesis of stable, meaning I have too many, I need to liquidate some of my labor force right away. Nonsense number 2, this is where it came very quickly. Jay Powell. Jay Powell on Friday said that he's keeping his projection and his focus at the Federal Reserve to getting inflation down to 2% later this year. Nonsense? Absolutely. Back in February, I said that Jay Powell's nonsense about 2% inflation by December is ridiculous. It's unsupported by data. That Jay Powell is going to get down to 4%. Since then, the Department of Labor has confirmed my reporting. Congressional Budget Office confirmed my reporting. And Wall Street analysts as well. But what did Jay Powell say on Friday? Again, I'm getting unemployment down, I'm getting inflation down to 2% later this year. Pure nonsense. Why is nonsense out of the Federal Reserve even more problematic? Because the Federal Reserve was once perceived as a source of great economic analysis, as great predictors, as a guiding beam of light through the economy and its uncertainties. The Federal Reserve tonight is perceived as pure nonsense because it keeps on feeding this nonsense. Third, Americans were told by Jay Powell that raising interest rates would lower inflation. I said back in February, it doesn't work that way. It'll never work that way. But the question mark I said then is, when are the American people going to realize that's nonsense? Tonight, they're starting to realize it's nonsense. Why? Because inflation's high. Still, Jay Powell has been raising interest rates for many months, and interest rates and inflation is actually higher. The American people may not understand why it's not working, but they are now realizing Jay Powell is feeding them nonsense. It's been long understood that the Federal Reserve has a sort of pony show in which they want to talk inflation down by saying that they're going to do things. And that often it doesn't work. But tonight, the loss of consumer confidence in Federal Reserve heads is really very clear. Why is it even more clear? Because more Americans are now understanding the domino effect of what's happened in this economy. It didn't just start to become a bad economy yesterday. It's been going bad for a few weeks now. And so Americans started wondering, why is this economy getting bad? Why is this economy getting bad? I see the gasoline prices are high. I see the guy called at the Federal Reserve. What's his name? Jay something? He's doing something. I don't understand what he's doing. I see inflation's really high. Gas is really high. And I see less people working in the big box retailer. What's going on here? And people start to realize, wait a second, there's something wrong here. And then broadcast media, mainstream media, is now starting to repeat the narrative. Jay Powell's trying to get inflation down, but he may not be getting it down by raising interest rates. He may be sending a recession. Oh, Americans are now understanding that Jay Powell's raising interest rates to reduce inflation, but if he doesn't work, he's sending you a recession. They're now starting to understand this. And this is why consumer confidence is falling apart. This is why consumer savings is falling apart. This is why corporate earnings are down, because the consumer thinks that the economy is getting bad. They're not going to spend. They're going to save their money. That's what I told you earlier in this recording. Save your money. Don't spend your money. If you don't spend your money, then suddenly the businesses make less money. Suddenly they go under. Now, why is this economy doing this? And if you don't understand it, well, tonight you will, starting right now. It starts not with Jay Powell. It starts not with Janet Yellen. It starts first with the Western allies and Joseph Biden. And the part of the equation that started this rolling was gasoline. The way that this economy works is the following. If gasoline is in shorter supply, there's a shortage of gasoline, then the price of gasoline goes higher. Pretty simple. Is there a shortage of gasoline right now? There is. Why? Because Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. How much gasoline is missing? 3.5 million barrels a day. Wow, that's a lot. So how do we get the price of gasoline down? The only way you get the price of gasoline down is replacing the missing oil. Pretty easy, right? Yeah, 3.5 million barrels of gasoline missing per day. You get it replaced. Now, is anyone in these Western allies of the White House doing that? Absolutely not. This is the month of June, and they should have started doing this in October. As I said earlier in this recording, Joe Biden asked Janet Yellen in October, do you have a contingency plan if Putin invades Ukraine next year? She has no contingency plan, and they had no oil lined up. When Putin invaded in March, the Western allies, including the United States, banned the Russian oil, and OPEC Plus reduced capacity, 3.5 million barrels of gasoline missing a day. So what do? You go get oil. You go get oil. As soon as Putin invaded in March. Did we? No. April? No. May? No. June? No. July? No. No one of the Western allies has gotten to replacing missing oil. So guess what? The gasoline prices are going up. Continue to go up. And will continue to go up if the war in Ukraine continues for years, as we learned today, and the Western allies never find the 3.5 million barrels somewhere else. There's 5 choices. Venezuela, Brazil, Iran, OPEC Plus, and Saudi Arabia, of which those 5 choices, the Western allies have done nothing. This is my recommendation, but obviously they're not listening. My recommendation is get a task force of the major leading Western allied countries and get together and say, choose a country. One of these 5, choose a country. And let's go get the 3.5 million barrels. Then the price of gasoline goes down. When they don't do this, this is what's going to go on. And let me explain what this is. When the price of gasoline remains elevated because you did not get the missing oil replaced, then the consumer price index number, the CPI, which is inflation, remains higher. And as Jay Powell said last week, if the CPI is high, and that's inflation, I'm raising interest rates. And if Jay Powell continues to raise interest rates because the price of gasoline continues to remain high, because no one bought the replacement of gasoline, you go in recession. Very, very simple. Very, very simple. No one in the White House understands this? Of course they understand this. No one in the Western allies understands this? Of course they understand this. Why are they not dealing with it? I don't know. A lot of nonsense out there from the Western allies all the way to the White House, to Jay Powell, to Janet Yellen, to everyone in control. They got to get the replacement oil, and until they don't get that replacement oil filled, we have a very bad economic situation. And this could go on for many, many years. So the situation tonight is that front. Now, let me turn to another part of the situation on how oil impacts things. And ironically, the rising price of oil is going to help my beneficiaries if you're on SSI and SSDI. This breaking news story was first reported on this channel no less than a few days ago. And what is it? Yes, your benefits are going up. Your benefits are going up. If you're on SSI, SSDI, VA, RB, and more, how much are they going up? They're at least going up 8% year to date, and that is lifetime, according to the Social Security Administrator, actuary, Stephen Goss. Now, this part of the recording is a little bit complicated, but don't worry, because if you remember, it's in the newsletter. I break it down for you. Stephen Goss understands that your benefits are determined based upon a benchmark we featured on this channel, and that benchmark is COLA. COLA is announced at the end of every year, but it's not determined by the end of the year. It's determined upon the events of 3 months: July, August, and September. What event in those 3 months? The CPIE will release those 3 months. CPIE, that sounds like CPI. Yes, it's a subsection of CPI. When the CPI-E is released in July, August, and September, it determines the COLA number for the end of the year. Now, last 2 Fridays ago, the CPI and the CPIE were released. Excuse me, CPIW. Saying it wrong tonight. CPI-W. When the CPI and CPI-W were released 2 weeks ago, Goss looked at the number and said, based upon that number, I'm projecting that the COLA later this year will be at 8%. What did he do? He basically looked at the May CPI-W number released 2 weeks ago, and he said, based upon that May number, I believe the July, August, and September number will be this, and your benefits will generally be about 8% up. Do I agree? I think that's the minimum. And I understand this is a great number. This is a great number. This means you're going to get SS300. This means your benefits will go up on average about $300 more per month a lifetime, not just 1 year, but a lifetime. But here's the interesting part of the equation. The Senior League believes the number is closer to 8.6% by looking at the same data we all have to look at today, which is the May data released 2 weeks ago. When I look at the data from 2 weeks ago, I think it's closer to 9%. Why? And you can do the analysis with me tonight as well. The CPI is determined based upon gasoline. And if gasoline does go higher, stay as elevated as it is right tonight, then the gasoline prices in the United States are not going to be as they were in May, because June is higher than May. July could be even worse, and August could certainly be as worse or worser as well. If you believe the situation in gasoline is not going to be solved by the Western Allies, which at this point I think is not going to be solved, then the CPI is not going to be 8%. It's going to be higher because Jay Powell raising interest rates does not bring down the price of gasoline. That would likely mean, in my opinion, that it could be 9%. We all know this as a family, as a collective force in July, August, September when I deliver you the CPI-W reads at the time. Finally, breaking news as well this last week as Bernie Sanders and Liz Warren and another legislator with 2 different pieces of legislation both introduced bills to swap the COLA from the CPI-W to the CPI-E, which is closer to inflation. Will that happen? I don't know. This week we have a lot to go over, and what we're going to go over this week is not only these 4 stimulus checks in every U.S. state, but how this economy is going to get bad so quickly, so fast. We're going to look at why so many industries are going under or going down or contracting so quickly, so dramatically, and so fast that the downward fall is almost faster than the upward rise. Stock market crash of 2020. We're going to look more about the 2022. We're going to look more at what stocks are doing this week and whether it signals we're closer to the worst part of this fall. We're going to look at the housing data. We're going to look at the narrative that's confusing Americans. Is this a recession? Is it not a recession? Are we in a recession? Are we not in a recession? That's not the concern. It's whether inflation is going to stay higher. It's whether unemployment is going to get worse. It's whether gas prices are going to stay high. It's going to be whether the individual industries like housing and auto and similar continue to get erode across the board. We'll be looking at all that data as well. For the shores of Santa Monica, California tonight, you need to do 3 things. 1, subscribe to this channel. 2, become a member right now. And don't wait 3 months. Don't wait 3 weeks. Don't wait 3 days. Get those 4 stimulus checks in every U.S. state. You need to get them because this economy is going to be much worse by September. You need to get lots of money right now and hoard that cash because I care about you greatly. And the tough love is apparent. Get the money. Don't wait. Do not bet on whether this is or isn't a recession. Get the money right now. Prepare your family and your livelihood. Keep cash as king. And do it right away. I'll see you throughout the night as Evenings LA continues at 5 o'clock. 6 o'clock is Evenings Countdown. 7 o'clock Stream Stimulus. 8 o'clock Extra. 9 o'clock Sunset. Stay informed, stay focused. Have a beautiful night. And stay with LA for more.